WWE releases 18 superstars after profitable earnings report. What's up, everybody? This is your boy. This is the Yellow Boy. I'm joined here by my bros. You got Over Here Boy. You got Hogs Wars. We're here. We got the Shooting with the Bros today, and we're going to be talking about those releases. So, as we know, on Friday, after Thursday's earnings report, there were 18, right? 18, y'all?
Yeah, probably.
18.
Damn, skip it.
18 WWE superstars that were released after the earnings call that happened, that it was reported that WWE for this quarter made $526 million for the quarter. And now they're releasing 18 superstars. Give me just a second, and we're going to talk about those superstars. But to give a comprehensive list, in no particular order, those superstars were Keith Lee, Mia Yim, Nia Jax, Eva Marie, Karrion Kross, Harry Smith, B-Fab, Lindsay Dorado, Grand Metalik, Ember Moon, Jeet Rama, Scarlett Bordeaux, Frankie Monet, Oni Lorcan, Jessie Kamea, Zeta Ramirez, Trey Baxter, and Katrina Cortez. 18 superstars, and that's both from the main roster and from NXT.
So was you
guys? What are we thinking?
When you were reading that, were you counting it at the same time?
I was not.
What I think about it, man, is you know, from my personal standpoint about all that stuff, it just seems like that always is the thing. It's like, okay, this quarter earnings call's rolled out, they've made all this money, and it's like, okay, somebody's fixing to get the cut. So that's not been the case the last few times it's happened. So there's where I'm at with that.
How goes?
In my case, I'm just trying to figure out how you let go of 70 people in a year and then have a nerve to be like, oh, we also made a ton of money while we let go of 70 people. Ain't that nice?
The interesting point about that, you say 70 people. From 2020, I want to say 2019 to 2021, they've let go 200 people. I mean, estimated 200 people. That's rounded up. So that's 200. Now, granted, WWE, remember, there was a time where WWE was just hoarding talent because they didn't want other promotions to get that talent. Now, all of a sudden, they're just releasing talent, and not just talent, but this is talent that have made them, some of them, like in the course of like The Fiend. The Fiend was making WWE money, and yet they let The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, go, which his non-compete has been done since October 30th. So who knows where he's going to pop up. But sticking with these, I mean, how do you let some of those talents go? I mean, when a lot of them had just got there this year. I mean, Hogs Wars, who were some of the names that kind of just hit for you that were let go?
The most obvious, of course, is Keith Lee, because that one and Karrion Kross is like people he pushing. How you pushing and repackaging people, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, it didn't work out. We'll just get rid of you after we was going to bring you back looking like a superstar. I still don't understand that.
Are you okay with Keith Bearcat Lee?
No one's cool with Keith Bearcat Lee. But my thing is that, and I know it's been said a bunch lately, how do you take a guy who did what he needed to do to make himself special, and then once he get with y'all, we're going to take all the things that made you special out and put you as the basic? Nobody's going to win that way. I don't care who you are.
Over Here Boy, thoughts on Keith Bearcat?
So, I mean, you really want to get me rolled up on that? Because I'll be honest with you, man, it's like, you know, wrestlers back in the day, you know, some African-American guys went by Bearcat, like Bearcat Wright, those kind of guys. And, you know, they were draws for what they were. And I'll be honest with you, man, I think it's it's some misguided. Oh, listen here, pal. We're gonna make him Bearcat Lee, and then go there. So that's how I feel about that, man. Like it was a bad idea from the get go, and from what little bit I've kind of seen on the sheets, there was some speculation that he started having kind of like a bad attitude in the locker room, and I'm sure it was because of the direction he was pushed. But I mean, I'm not too certain that Mia Yim wasn't almost directly related to the fact that he was let go too. So it's like, oh, we get a 2-for-1 here and save some money on it. So I don't know, not a fan of the Bearcat thing, man, at all.
And if we were looking at a couple of things here, if we're looking at social media, Keith Lee yesterday responded to a fan about the Bearcat, the name, where the fan had asked, was that his idea? And Keith Lee had responded, no, that was not his idea, and put a LOL behind it. So definitely wasn't his idea. In the same light, Karrion Kross, a fan, had asked him if they were going to be able to buy that helmet off of him, the GIMP helmet. And Karrion Kross said, nobody wants that sugar honey iced tea. So, it's definitely not their ideas. But I will say this. I don't think that I've heard anything about Keith Lee's attitude behind the scenes being negative. But there was that thing. I don't think it was. I don't think it was. It reflects well of WWE that Keith Lee overcame that heart condition earlier this year where he was almost dead, overcame that. Mia Yim put her career on hold to be able to help her fiance and get him back to strength so he could get back to wrestling. He gets back, performs a couple of matches under his Keith Lee moniker. They send him away and repackage him over, with the moniker of Bearcat. Now, whether that's due to Ernie Wright or whether that's due to just, hey, pal, let's just give this guy this new package and make him an animal and let him scream. As a black man, I'm not sure if I like that, making somebody animalistic or whatnot and having them yell. And Keith Lee by himself, I'm not going to get too far on it, but Keith Lee by himself is an athlete altogether. It's something that you want. And unfortunately, WWE, in my opinion, didn't let him be who he was before they did all this repackaging. But I'd like to get y'all's take on it before I take up all the space.
No, but like, I'm going to kind of go in with what a little bit earlier when I was sitting down trying to collect my thoughts about it. Keith Lee's like a once in a lifetime guy, man. He is what like Bam Bam Bigelow and Vader, they could have been had they had that same athleticism. I mean, that man's not just over here doing big power moves. He's doing like, moonsaults and splashes and doing high flying stuff that people his size should not be doing. So it's like, what are you doing, man? Like, they got him. He tried his best to get to the big leagues. He made it there. Had a little bit of NXT success, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, we're gonna get him and squander him, just like they happen to do every time somebody moves up to the main roster. And then now we have him doing this. How long was he in the WWE for, man? I mean, is he still? I'm sure he still got a lot of longevity. But like, man, they probably took up a better part of the youth that he could have been doing bigger stuff, like over there in MLW with Fatu, or even going against somebody big like Cobb. I mean, those are some matchups I would love to see on a main stage, and like, who knows if we're going to get to see that kind of stuff now. So,
I mean, they had it in depth. I'm sorry over Hog Wars, but I just want to say this: they had him and Dijakovic already. That was already there. It was homemade. It was a home run for them to hit. And then the other thing I was going to answer before Hog Wars, you can go ahead, is that Keith Lee was in WWE for 3 years. It's October 22nd, 2018 to yesterday, or day before yesterday, November 4th, 2021. So, but Hog Wars, what you got? Hog Wars? Maybe not. I caught him off guard.
Caught him
trying
unawares.
to cut a phone off. Anyway, I think the thing that has bugged me more is it's very rare for a guy that athletic, that big, and can actually talk to get a shot anyway. Then the fact that, and I mean, just using people like Cornette and some of these other people, he's a big, massive dude. He doesn't have to do all this extra stuff. I said, well, guess what? Everybody he's around right now does big extra stuff. So what's the difference? I said, if he's gonna get ahead, he's got to bring something else to the table, because the reality is, right now in the wrestling business at this moment in time, you cannot be basic. You have to have something else. And it's almost like they took to something else and now he's, well, basic.
But before we spend the whole time talking about Keith Lee, because I know that we can, just know we will have some time to talk about individual superstars that were released this week. However, I do want to pivot and talk about the women that were released this past week, because there were a lot of them. And we know that WWE, especially with their main roster, doesn't have a lot of women to choose from. And then we have, what, 3 titles on the main roster? We have the Raw Women's Championship, the SmackDown Women's Championship, and we have those tag belts, which who's going to be tagging, since now we've released a few more women. But I'd like to get some of your thoughts on it. So over here, boy, what do you think about the women who were released this past week?
Man, I'll be honest with you. Like, you just got through talking about the titles on the main roster, so you have the same people vying for the heavyweight championships, on either brand, and then there's always that discussion that they're going to combine the two and make it one belt and all that other crap. And then like one of your longest tag team champions was Baszler and Nia Jax, and then they cut her loose, and there's been some issues here or there. Um, her being too stiff or a little bit dangerous in her work and this and that. And recently she took to Twitter talking about her mental health, and she might wanted a little more of an extended break. And WWE, for some reason, man, I'm not really pointing fingers at them, but they seem to not be very high on people that hit them with that kind of thing. Because if I recall, I mean, Wyatt was kind of going through a little bit of stuff too, and like, you can't tell me they didn't have a little bit to do with them going away. But I mean, look, man, they got rid of Frankie Monet, they got rid of Ember Moon, they got rid of B-Fab. I mean, I don't understand. Mia Yim. I mean, those are some hardcore talents. Who are they going to feed? I hate to use that. Who are they going to put in those high profile matches against, like your Lynch and your Charlotte Flair? I mean, it can't be the 4 horsemen all the time, dude. I mean, but that's how they're doing it. But people, they want to complain. Well, Zelina Vega doesn't have some of the things that some of the people they let go of, but she's got that Twitter. She's got a huge Twitch, rather. Huge, man. And they look at that kind of thing. They look at socials and what kind of outreach that the superstars have out there. So I mean, it's sad, man, because I mean, some of them just in there literally, and then like next thing you know, they're gone. You're like, they didn't even do anything. So that's kind of like where I'm at. It's a little disheartening to see that. And if I was a woman competitor, I might would look hard at that. Like, other than the money, maybe the schedule. I know they work a lot, but they're not really putting themselves on the line like they do a lot in the Josie promotions, or some of the other things that are a little bit more. I mean, I even think AEW's women roster works a little bit more stiff than what they do in the WWE, unless it goes for like pay-per-views and stuff like that. So I don't know, man.
Like beforehand, and Hogs Wars, I want to hear your take on it. But before all this, it was probably a hot take, but some people would have said that WWE had one of the best women's rosters in professional wrestling. And I think now that kind of goes to Impact now, if you really want to know God's good truth, because while AEW is the fresh thing smoking, their women's division still has a lot to be desired, and it has some things that's missing out of it. Because you look at their women's roster and you think about it, a lot of their women aren't as tenured and don't have the experience. Now, I'll get to another point, especially with talking about Taya Valkyrie, or Frankie Monet, as she was known in NXT. But Hogs Wars, what do you think about the women's situation?
I honestly think that's where they really have kind of dropped the ball. I mean, let's face it. They literally had a whole tournament for the women, and they had a total of 30 minutes to get it in. Like, I get y'all think the boys are more important, which is, I know that's a far gone conclusion since it's made it pretty obvious that's the case. But there's a point where you start to realize, is it really more important, or is it really just y'all way of trying to just say we put it in there, we did what you asked?
Yeah.
And see, then you literally get rid of almost every tag team you had, like either getting rid of folks or switching folks, and then you leave you leave your top 4 stars basically in the same matches, but just switch where they were at. You didn't do anything to actually change it so it got better. That's my problem. It's like,
but Hog Wars, will they coexist? Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, we say that kind of stuff, but it's like when you really, get the brass tacks, the thing we always complain about with WWE is they always do the same freaking boring thing. And then when you finally get people who are different, and this still goes back to the Keith Lee thing too. Oh, well, you're too different now. We got to change you so you fit the style. Why? That's what you need right now. Different, not the same goddamn thing every single match. Like, there's people that got counters on how many times somebody gets rolled up in the darn win. Like, come on, man. There has to be a point where you sit down, you look at everything and say, maybe, just maybe, we can tweak this formula just a little bit so it's not the same goddamn 4 matches every goddamn time we do a show. It's got to be some change somewhere.
You speak about change, and you speak about the same format, and also speaking about the differences with the guys and the ladies in wrestling, especially with WWE. The biggest thing that I was going to talk about was the fact that Frankie Monet, aka Taya Valkyrie, was mostly, and this is of course speculation, this is some of the things that's been reported around the rumor mill, but Frankie Monet was released based on her age. And are you seeing this as well? Have we lost over here, boy, again?
No, I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Your camera was out for a second. I wanted to make sure you're still there.
Yeah.
But it was due to her age, because I want to say that she's mid-30s right now, and the last few WWE men's champions have been in their early 40s. Because I want to say that Drew McIntyre is either 39 or 41, and Bobby Lashley is 43, I want to say. But yet for the women, there's that double standard, and it's also what Mickie James had talked about when she went over to Impact, as far as that double standard that women have shelf lives to last in pro wrestling. And the fact of the matter is what WWE is putting in to replace these women that they're letting go are women who are inexperienced, unfortunately, and aren't able to perform to the level that they were when this big boom, this big bust that had happened, when unfortunately I feel like they had folks like Ronda Rousey, and they kind of rallied around Ronda Rousey, and then she left, and then WWE said to heck with the women's division. And so now let's put on these women like we used to have back in the Divas era, versus having actual women wrestlers. Anything to add to any of that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, my main thing with that too, and like I'll piggyback on something you said earlier. Yeah, AEW has a lot of really green women in there. You can tell they really don't know what it is. They kind of got an idea, and they're getting it. The Jane Cargills and some of them, who you can tell they're going to be stars. They just need a little more seasoning, as they like to say. But the best thing smoking on WWE, especially like what a year or 2 years ago, definitely was the women's division.
Oh yeah.
It was they were
Yeah.
literally on every they were literally main eventing pay-per-views because they were so much better than the men because we cared more. The storylines were better. It was way more interesting. And then, like you said, they just like they hit a wall and was just like, you know what, f this. We got to get somebody like Roman Reigns. Of course, Roman Reigns is going to be the guy that's going to make everybody care again. No, Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar going to make everybody care again. Y'all lost the trump card, which was having a strong division at the top of the women's division. Made it where, hey, when we had the breaks in between these two other title matches that we so-called care so much about, it actually makes us care more about the other people. How could that happen? But maybe I'm crazy.
Talking about Roman Reigns. My boy's teeth. Nah, but going back to what you're saying, man, like the AEW thing, I think the WWE has obviously some of the best trainers in the entire world, and they help polish people to like crazy levels. If AEW had a similar vetting system for like especially the women, I think it would be super awesome. But they're getting there. But like what y'all were talking about when we cared about women's wrestling in the WWE when it was hot, man, like that's how Becky Lynch got over. She would not get over in today's women's era with that same gimmick. I don't feel because, like you said, man, they're going back to kind of like that divas mentality, and those matches, man, were brutal. You had a few workers, but the rest of them were just eye candy that got out there, and you're just like, oh my god, man. And they were basically just the filler stuff. It'd be stuff where I'd go to shows and people would get up and they'd go to the concessions or the bathroom or whatever, and that ain't right, man, because they're doing just as much work as the dudes are. So I don't know, man. They're definitely I don't know. It's like it's always one step forward, two steps back for those guys, and it boils down to the leadership, man. So that's all I can say.
So just to give the listeners, viewers, an idea, so I'll go through this list again and just kind of point out a couple of things. Not going to talk about, like I said, we're going to have a time period where we can talk about a few extra ones before we end this. But you had Katrina Cortez, and if you're not familiar with Katrina Cortez, she a couple years ago was on the show in a mixed tag team match with Sin Cara, and she was the other masked lady from NXT. They brought her up for no apparent reason other than to put over Zelina Vega and Andrade, and she went right back down to NXT. You have Zeta Ramir. Zeta Ramir, for those of you who keep up with indies, she was known as AQA. She came in. When she did her tryouts, they had a lot of confidence that she was going to do very well. She did a lot of high risk maneuvers and such, and they had high hopes. She had just got to WWE, by the way, in NXT this year, and now she's already out. You have Jessie Kamea. She was a ex-volleyball player. She's the significant other of Isaiah Scott, Isaiah Swerve Scott, sorry. But, she was with the Robert Stone brand and just kind of background fodder. They never really did anything with her. Frankie Monet, we've already talked about her. Scarlett Bordeaux. But let me go back to Frankie Monet real quick. Frankie Monet was made for the main roster. Why she was on NXT, I have no idea. She had all the experience in the world. She was just main roster ready. You're going to hear that on every single podcast, every single webcast, that she was ready for the main roster and whatever. She could probably go back to him. Anyway, you have Scarlett Bordeaux. Go ahead.
I don't mean to jump in, but you're talking about Frankie, man. So to me, Frankie always was kind of like what I wanted Dana Brooke to be. She had like that power of Dana Brooke, but she also had like the skills and got out there and for the most part she had smooth matches and did a good job of carrying people in a match, you could tell. So that's just a little caveat I had to have. So go ahead, man.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah. And then you had Scarlett Bordeaux, who, why they split her and Karrion Kross up, because like the entrance was fire in NXT. Like that was like one of the best entrances. We thought that Karrion Kross, since we're talking about Scarlett Bordeaux, thought that Karrion Kross, Killer Kross, was just made for the main roster. He looked like a Vince guy, big guy, muscular, not great with like the actual graps of wrestling, but that guy that could just on camera looks good, can do the work, boom bam, Vince guy, whatever. Anyway, Ember Moon, I'm gonna make myself cry if I talk about Ember Moon because just great. Went up to the main roster. They couldn't think of anything to do with her on the main roster when she got there, and they sent her back to NXT. She got the tag belts NXT, and then they were like, "What do we do?" She got a couple of injuries and was on her way to make a comeback, reinvent herself, and they were like, "You know what? You're gone." I hope Tony Khan is watching. Is all I have to say, because you're looking for diversity, you're looking for women on your show, and you're looking for tenured women with diversity on your show. Ember Moon is available. Anyway,
hey man, just real quick, I'm going to interject myself again because you're talking about Ember Moon. Like I've already had thoughts in my head of like the kind of match that her and Britt Baker could have. I think that'd be amazing because at first I wasn't sold on the whole Britt Baker thing, and now like her whole aesthetic and the way she comes out and does all the DMD stuff, perfect. And I think Ember Moon could bring like that kind of like the Abaddon thing to where it's like, okay, I don't know how to really deal with this kind of a competitor, so we'll see. So that's something I see her ended up over there at some point in time, man. I don't see how they can't, because just her pedigree that she's got coming from her indie star. Everybody loved her to death. Everybody still loves her to death, but Vince just couldn't figure it out. So I don't know.
Hogs Wars. Anything with the list of women that I just said?
Just Ember Moon, and I know Scarlett was a package deal issue. So once they pulled that Road Warriors and said you got to move on, Paul, they did the same thing to her. And unlike Paul, who was able to find somebody else to partner with for a minute, she just got thrown to the wolves, and it was just done deal. But Ember Moon was one of the few of them I actually followed before she got big in NXT. So when they first kind of mini pushed her a little bit, I said, all right, I can dig this. She got something. We'll see where it goes. And then she had those great matches with Asuka, and then when she got to the main roster, they kept kind of running that thing. And then it's just like all of a sudden it hit this brick wall where like, who's more important, Ember Moon or Charlotte? And it's like, oh yeah, we like Charlotte more, so let's push Charlotte again and throw somebody else in the dirt. I'm like, I said, sometime you really do got to quit pulling that daring trigger on stuff and quit trying to cut the rest of people off.
Yeah.
Now, none of us know what goes on behind the scenes. Maybe she was difficult to work with. Maybe she wasn't catching on or something or whatever. But every match that she had that we actually got to watch, you actually were entertained. So if somebody's entertaining and they actually make good matches, why would you let them go?
Yeah, man.
That's the only thing I've been trying to figure out for the life of me.
That finishing maneuver, that's the first time I ever started following her in the Indies. She come off a top rope and hit him with that stunner, and I was just like, that's amazing. Like, I'm not seeing anybody doing that kind of stuff in women's wrestling. I'm not to take anything away from the ones that paved the way now in the current, like your Sasha Banks and your Bayley and Charlotte Flair and Becky, but they're not doing that stuff. They don't have to. They're at that place in the card to where they don't have to do something that draws that kind of attention to themselves. But even apparently that's not good enough. So I'm kind of interested to see where that women's division is going to go, especially with all these cuts. So
yeah. Again, we talked about a couple of the other ones. The one that we haven't talked about, I briefly will talk about two, and that's B-Fab and Eva Marie, funny enough. B-Fab, now there's rumors going around that B-Fab had just signed a new contract moving up to the main roster last week when she moved into the main roster. That's neither confirmed or denied at this point. So, like I said, that's just something that's floating out there. But unfortunately, and if anybody has watched SmackDown yesterday, which is Friday, November the 5th, if anybody watched SmackDown, they could see the obvious just missing piece of Hit Row with B Fab because B Fab is the one that sings the hit row, and there was none of that on there. It's just a generic theme now that they come out to, and you could tell that she was missing.
Right, and
And
then you
while
had your boy come out
she
there looking
wasn't
like
the
trash, trying to
greatest
make it go
performer,
over. So
right? Like, and granted, she wasn't the greatest of performers. I've heard Sean Ross Sapp on Fightful say this, or somebody from Fightful say this. You have a whole performance center to make people better. If they're not good, what in the heck is the use to have a performance center if they're not going to help them with what they're doing? And speaking of that, you have Eva Marie, who she was away shooting a movie. That's why she hasn't been on TV. She's been away shooting a movie. But unfortunately, it didn't seem like she had gotten better from the time that she took away the first time that she was there to now. And while she made some strides, it doesn't appear that she had gotten better than where she was. So, but again, you have a performance center. Why not help them out? You know, Eva Marie was we all know Johnny Ace loves those type of women. Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis, for those who don't know who Johnny Ace is.
Yeah, that's for the marks, Johnny Ace.
Right, for you
Marks out there.
People.
Yeah.
You people.
Ham sandwich.
But that's his kind of woman. That, you know, when we had all those divas back in the day, that's what he chose. So, but you have all of those women, just to kind of wrap this up and get y'all final takes on the women stuff. You have all these women that could have been used for the main roster and just squelched. However, for the majority of them, I do see them moving on, whether it be Impact, and unfortunately Ring of Honor is having its own stuff, but I see a lot of folks moving on to Impact or AEW, especially the women with AEW, because they need them. But what are y'all's final takes on the women?
well, I know in my end of the universe, the whole situation really just sucks. It's like I can understand, you know, a few cuts here or there. That's probably gonna happen no matter where you are. But it just seems like you did all this influx of talent. Now you're doing an influx of releases. Like, sorry, you didn't make the cut. You know, goodbye. Okay, you the weakest link. Goodbye. All right, fine. But like we just said, 200 people is a lot of people. It really feels like, you know, the WWE was burdened with riches and then just decided, you know what? We're still the number one company. Who cares? Let the rest of y'all go on somewhere else and find something else to do with your life. And I don't know if that was meant to be a good thing or if it just really was. I'm a con. I'm making billions, and I'm gonna take all these people and make more billions off of it. And that's it. And it's almost like they forgot the part that brought us to the table anyway. It's the freaking wrestling. The reason we've cared, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, is not from nostalgia, especially with all of the stuff going on that let us know how terrible people like Hulk Hogan really are. It's really been the rise of women's wrestling being good, like really good. And then the ability to say, hey, I'd actually rather watch them in the main event than your quote unquote main event star, which means they were so much better than them. And the storyline was so much better that we could give a damn who was in the main event.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if that don't mean, you know, that they were trying to pick them over the other, it really meant that, guess what? Women can have great matches and great stories too. So.
Over here, boy.
Man, I mean, I don't know, dude. If they're really ushering in that Divas era of wrestling, that's going to be kind of crappy for the ones that are up and coming. I think the girls that are up right now in the main that have the higher spots on the card, I don't think they'll really be affected by that. But I think everybody that's getting vetted into that system now is going to fall under that. And as dude, the WWE has really never taken it as serious. There was that little lull in time where they were focusing on like the Mae Young Classic, and they were doing all that kind of stuff and bringing all kinds of women competitors from all over the world. Man, stardom everywhere. They were coming in, doing big things. That's the first time I ever saw Mia Yim, because I don't follow the independents as much as I'd like. But then all of a sudden it's like, okay, like we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to go back to a formula that we use. And I don't know if a lot of that has to do with the fact that now since they became publicly traded, I've noticed it being more then, because you got to make shareholders happy. If that's not something they're seeing profit on, they're going to be like, whoa, why are we still doing this? So unfortunately, you got your leadership, and then you got all those other factors involved with it. And the people that are really going to suffer are the people watching the product.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks all around, but again, we hope that those women are able to find some work soon. Of course, they have anywhere between 30 day, 90-day non-compete clauses. So, a month, 3 months down the line, we should see hopefully all of these individuals. But to move on, um, just want to grab if you want to grab a couple of folks that you can think about that were super super shocking to you that's on that list, then by all means, let's talk about them. So I'll move to Hogs Wars first. Is there anybody on that list that we haven't talked about that jumps out to you that you kind of want to give your piece on?
Honestly, the only other one really big is just Oni Larkin, and he's likable. He's a great wrestler. Great wrestler. There's so many times in NXT where matches that should have been just hot garbage end up being great because he pulled so much out of the other guy. He's a great worker. He's not a hand. He's a damn good worker. And it's like, I know Bobby Fish and them always got the push, but he was always that guy that no matter who he was wrestling, he was pushing. So I'm like, if you got a guy like that, I know he might, fall down the wayside sometime because, politics or whatever, but out of everybody else that we haven't talked about, he is definitely one that really seemed like it just came out of left field. Because I know it was a Grand Metalik. I know he was asking for his release, so it ain't like it was a big deal to him. And then the other thing is just how many people it seems like left is gone from like 205 Live and stuff like that. I'm like, so are we done with 205 Live now? We done with the cruiserweights now? We've done with that experiment, as we like to say. So,
I mean, the writing was kind of on the wall with Oni when him and Danny Burch got split from Pete Dunne, who I'm sure right now is kicking himself in the butt for re-signing that contract right about now. Maybe. But I agree with you. Oni Lorcan is a great worker. He's somebody that, I mean, just think of all the battles that he's had in NXT, and he's excelled a lot of people from the work rate that he does. He's pushed them, and I could see this is me doing fantasy booking here, but I could see him doing some New Japan stuff since New Japan has their feet over here. I can see him doing some New Japan stuff and doing real well, but we have to kind of see what that will look like as far as with travel and travel bans and everything. But over here, boy, you got anything about Oni?
Yeah, man. I wanted to touch base on him because my boy, he's a Boston guy. So, I'm a Boston Bruins fan and everything. He always come out there, his ring gear, always, he had the black and gold until he started teaming with Birch. And, dude, I'll be honest with you. If I had to pick a team behind me, like, okay, I'm going to get two dudes. I know one of them can stretch somebody and the other guy can outwork them. I'm picking those two guys. So, they moved from the NXT of old to this new NXT, and they just wasn't a place for a dude. Unfortunately, if I see him going to another big promotion, he's going to get lost in the shuffle, man. He's going to be like one of your new, your Dark Order type dudes. It's going to be in a big faction like that or something. But, I mean, you're talking about the New Japan thing. That'd be real interesting because, he could get over there and start working with, like, Roppongi 3K, those guys. I mean, because he's got that kind of work rate where he can go with dudes like that. I'd even like to see him going up against some of the piece for, some of the people from Los Ingobernables. So, I mean, That dude, I'm pretty much. I hope that his work and everything that people have seen of him can kind of help him write his own ticket to wherever he wants to go. Everything pending on the pandemic and the travel of that nature. But yeah, I just hated to see him go, man, because at first, like I said, when I first ever saw that guy, I was like, what is this jobber? Because that he came out there looking like looking like Gilbert. He had just like that plain
Not
Jane.
Gilbert.
Yeah, he had that plain Jane everything. Then he got in there. It's like, man, this guy can go, but was a fan of his ever since. So yeah, I was kind of sad to see that, man.
And while you at it, do you have another person that you're kind of wanting to talk about that's on that list of folks
Buddy,
that we haven't talked about yet? Who's that?
Harry Smith, dude. That guy,
God dang.
that guy came in. That dude came in like I even told you the other day. I said I didn't even know he was there. He literally had a dark match, and they kind of were teasing like that he was going to have him a big second run, and all of a sudden they're like, see you later. So they poached him from wherever he was at. He was doing big things back before Archer went to AEW. They were a pretty heavy tag team over in Japan. With Suzuki Gun, and I mean they were kind of dominant over there. They weren't quite like Bullet Club, God or anything like that, but they were right up there with him.
Right.
And I've always liked him. I mean, he obviously I think he's kind of like one of those guys like Ted DiBiase Jr. to where you're in your father's footsteps and limelight, and they have that expectation. Oh well, he's not a big swole dude like his dad was. So I don't really, but I mean, he's one of those examples of that classic type of wrestling that he did, and he's got a good pedigree. I just can't believe they brought him in and said, "Hey, go out there and do this match that nobody's going to see except for people that recorded it on their phones, and then, get you a spot of tea and get the f out."
Yeah. Unfortunately, he was supposed to be the he's supposed to be the big highlight for NXT UK. And they had all the issues with the travel and stuff like that, and he wasn't able to really go over there. And I think prior to WWE or returning to WWE, I think he did a lot of stuff, like you said, for New Japan, but also MLW. And I want to say he did some stuff for Bloodsport as well. But yeah, what a waste. That was such a waste of time for Harry Smith. Like, hey, we're going to bring you back in. We're going to have you do some matches, pal. And you're going to be just as big as your father over in the UK, pal. And then he just sits in catering and has the one dark match. And, well, pal, actually, it wasn't even him that called him. It's Johnny Ace that called everybody. And budget cuts. Sorry, we made $526 million this quarter, but budget cuts. We'll see you later, dude.
He gave them all the Ace Crusher, dude. But like going back to Harry Smith, man, it's like, dude, that whole Hart family is just destined to be deuced on. The only person that really has had any kind of success there in this modern age is Natty, dude. I don't get it. I don't get it.
So one last person that I want to talk about is Mia Yim, which we haven't talked about really. I mean, we've mentioned her and I talked about her with Keith Lee, but we haven't really talked about her. Just seeing her being released kind of breaks my heart. One, because of what she brought. Like, I remember seeing the Mae Young Classic. I just seen it the other day, the clip where the crowd was chanting, "Sign Mia," basically, and old Trips comes out and is like, "Okay," and signs her. Like, you had that behind her, and then you bring her to the main roster and put her in a friggin' mask and call in Metribution, as I heard it being called, because it was very meh. And had her. What was her name in Metribution? What was her name?
Doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but like I don't remember. That's how unmemorable that whole angle was to me.
Hogs Wars, you were saying something? I'm sorry, you was on mute.
No, I just really don't even remember anything. So, real talk, the fact you can call it a combo group and I still like, who the hell is that? Let you know further how unimportant it was.
Yeah, you put a mask on her. I mean, good on Mercedes Martinez, because she was like, "No, nope." They were like, "We're gonna bring you up with this group." Mercedes Martinez said, "Nope, no, you not." I'm gonna stay down here in NXT, but then she got bolly-whopped in the head by Xia Li and was gone.
You said
Like got concussed, and I really did. Bolly-whopped her upside her head, gave her a concussion, and they sent her the deuces and like peace out,
Finish
Mercedes
her.
Martinez. Right, but for Mia Yim, the fact that she gave up a lot of her career, again, I can't speak on how important that is for her to. I mean, I know that's her fiance, and they love each other, but she put her complete, even with that crappy gimmick that she had going on, that says something because that crappy gimmick wasn't getting over, and they weren't putting her on TV to wrestle, and she was background fodder, and then her fiance gets sick and she just, no, I'm gonna take care of him, caught COVID with him and everything reportedly, and just stay there by his side. So that says a lot. And then you get rid of her, but again, they got rid of a whole bunch of people. Over here, boy, you talked about training and stuff like that. They had Serena Deeb as a friggin' trainer, and look how well she's doing. You had Ruby Riot, now Ruby Soho. Look how well she's doing. I talked about earlier how you have a performance center and you can help train some of these folks. And one of those people, one of those women was Ty Conti. All they had to do was put some effort and put some work into her. Now look at her. She went from barely getting any work on NXT to main eventing on AEW because people were putting confidence in her. So that's really kind of all I want to say, unless y'all have anything extra y'all want to talk about with Mia Yim. No? Okay.
No, not
so,
really.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, it sucks when we see these releases happen. It doubly sucks when you hear that WWE made a profit and still are attributing their releases to budget cuts. That really stinks. But it's going to continue to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Like we said at the start of this jump.
Hell yeah.
That yeah. I mean, we said at the beginning of it, they were hoarding talent because they seen what was going to happen with AEW. They seen what was going to happen with Impact, and they wanted to hoard the talent and keep it from them. And then also you had Triple H's NXT, which was basically WWE, the Indies version that he was trying to assimilate, and now he's kind of got pushed to the side. So it's all wrecked. So you're going to see more of these. It sucks when it happens, but we've seen the history and we've seen what's happened, that these athletes, these performers will bounce back. They find different avenues where they can perform, and they do well. And we know now that WWE isn't the end all, beat all of professional wrestling. They have more options. So with that part being done, there's other things that's happened in professional wrestling, in the professional wrestling world. Is there anything that kind of caught your attention that's out there in the professional wrestling world that we have not touched on other than the releases?
I mean, all I can say is, Godspeed to Mox, man. Like, I hope everything works out for him, because, I mean, that's critical. I mean, he went from being a dude that people somewhat cared about, and it was mainly, people that had been fans from the indies and stuff when he was over in the E, to when he came over to AEW and got a ginormous push. And he's going through some things now, and I just wish him luck and hope everything goes, because we need to see that guy, the rider, back in the forefront, because I'm ready for him to go up against kind of break out a little bit and go up against Omega, because he needs some he needs some fresh people up on him. So
shout out to John Moxley and Renee Paquette as this next journey happens. Shout out to them though.
Yeah.
Hogs Wars. Anything that you want to touch on that we haven't touched on?
Well, shout out to WWE doing one good thing, and at least letting Xavier Woods win a darn title for something by his goddamn self. Because if we really being honest, I just knew Finn Balor was gonna win that. I knew everything I love. I was like, it ain't even about him being black either. That's what's so sad about it. It's just a guy who's watched
And you knew he
everybody else
meant
he
it.
know get that brass ring, and he finally got one. So
You
shout out
know
to him for
how
finally making the line.
House Wars meant that because he said it was on everything he loved. You know, when the black guy say on everything I love, you really mean that.
Man, I can't relate to that, man. I don't know. I can't relate to that now. Not me.
I'm sure over here, boy, you said on everything I love before in your life.
I may have. I mean, probably.
Green eggs and ham, my friend. No.
I think for us, the same sentiment is I swear on my mother's grave or something to that effect. Yo. Yeah. So it's I get it. I get the sentiment. I get it.
Yeah,
so
that's about right there, bud. That's right about
But you know, like
So-
going back to Woods, you know, I was real worried because there was some buzz over there again. You know, WWE, they look at all the metrics of the outreach that these people have outside of what they do for the company. And, you know, he's got the up, down, down, and everybody, you know, they're like, he's not as big on Twitch as he is on such and such. And, you know, I'm just like, dude, y'all are missing the point with that kind of mentality. So good on him for getting it. You know, he's a big proponent, self-pushed, you know, and I think that the WWE was smart, like you're saying, because the backlash from that probably would have been absurd. To me, man, it would have been almost Brock beating the Taker at WrestleMania big.
And I mean, hopefully, as we move forward doing these for you people, we get to explore some other things with like Xavier Woods and all of the New Day and that dynamic and the importance of them each winning something. And the fact of the matter is also talking about WWE with Twitch and how they're, you know, keeping their performers from having that secondary income with Twitch and stuff like that. And or the importance of wrestlers having an outlet after wrestling. Xavier Woods with G4 doing that self promotion with, you know, Tyler Breeze being released, but he has his certification to be a realtor, you know, and he's doing the income, all of those folks, and having that importance. So I think these are things that we're going to hopefully explore moving forward the more that we're able to do this. But before we leave, I do want to touch on one last thing that happened in wrestling news, then it happened today, is that wrestling fans don't want the smoke when it comes from Lindsay Dorado. They do not want that smoke. Have y'all seen it? Did y'all see this on Twitter?
He done blew up, huh?
Oh my
I guarantee
Lord.
that's funny, bro.
So a fan was talking cash money to Lindsay Dorado because of his recent release, and you know, gave him the future endeavors to be funny on Twitter. Oh, Lindsay Dorado don't play that. Lindsay Dorado told him to catch him outside because he gave him a time and a place of where he was going to meet this dude talking stuff, and he said, if you need me to, I will buy you I'll buy you a parking pass to come into where I'm at so that you can meet me. And took a picture of said parking pass for the whole day so that the guy can come meet. He said he left it with the attendant, and he was like, "Come catch me at 4:00 at this place in Kissimmee, Florida, and I will proceed to whoop that ass." So the dude not only took his tweet and deleted his tweet, he deleted his whole page. Like, he got gone.
Who the guy he said to catch me outside too?
Yes. Yeah.
That's
The
a troll account, dude. Yeah.
Wow.
The troll got so spooked, he deleted everything. Like Lindsay said, I don't play that. You come for me, you better come correct. Cause this wrestling stuff is just on TV. I beats I beats ass. Yeah, that's what he does. So
everybody,
I
that's
thought
what
that
I'm
was
saying.
just something.
You know,
That man said, I'm for real. I ain't this bull.
Yo, like the whole the lucha house party stuff, man. That was literally like this modern age of the Mexicools, dude.
Right.
Tell me,
God,
He said
what's
that
the
was
difference of coming down on John Deere lawnmowers or doing this right here? They out of touch, bro. And like he's like, look, man, that's on TV. You catch me outside, and that's what's up. Like, them dudes ain't to be
the
trifled
man
with,
said he
man.
a real gangster. You better watch out.
Yo, they know.
so for those of you watching, remember that on the computer you can be anybody you want to. But if you don't want them problems, look, you don't you can't back up nothing. You can't bust a grape in a fruit fight. Don't start them problems because these wrestlers, they men and they women and they grown men and they grown women, and you talk to them incorrectly. There's only so far that a promotion is going to keep them from being that man and woman that they are outside that promotion. So they going they gonna come and get you. But I just thought I'd end on a good note. So, um,
How you mean somebody
any
getting their
parting
ass whooped
word?
is a good note?
Yeah,
Getting
because
thrashed is the business.
Yeah, trolls don't
hey,
live trolling.
that's a good note to me. Trolls getting that ass.
And
Whooped.
remember, like what Dave Chappelle says, Twitter ain't a real place. So, you get on there and you start that mess, somebody comes at you, that's real to them.
You may
Right.
get
Yo,
one of those
yo.
real quick. But any parting words, so we can wrap this up and not keep the people, you people. Any parting
Yes.
words? Uh, Hog Wars. Any parting words?
Yeah. Getting rid of over 200 people in a year and a half is BS. But honestly, I hope all these people kind of get lucky, especially after what happened with ROH. So that by at least, the same time next year, we didn't talk about people being gone. We talking about people succeeding from being gone. And then I really do hope they quit dogging um, really that whole feud with Becky and Sasha and everybody, because that whole group of women is just like getting screwed over right now. They need, everybody needs a little cannon fodder here and there, but there's no storyline there if they've literally wrestled each other 100 times by now. It's time to go ahead, chalk it up, bring a few more people in so you can change it up so we actually care again.
Yo.
Because I miss the women's division mattering in WWE. I really do. I mean, I know
Women's
AEW will
wrestling
get there
matter.
one day, but I need it to matter again. Thank you very much.
Women's wrestling matters. Over here, boy.
Man, I'm gonna be like Cornette, man. Women's wrestling doesn't really matter. I mean, we make it out to be a lot bigger than it is. No, but seriously, man, I'm with that sentiment. And anybody that gets released from the WWE, man, it's like making fun of like a football player that's on an NFL team that's not a star player. They still on an NFL team. They still in the big leagues. So don't go on the Twitter. Don't go on their Instagrams, all their socials, and blow them up about how crappy of a job they did. They had no control over it. And what you see is not something they control. It's something that they were given. And, if they don't have nothing for them, they don't have nothing for them. Let's hope all of them land on their feet. And, I'm interested to see where some of these people end up, man. And I could already see a lot of dream matches in my head swirling around as soon as their non-competes are up. So that's all I got to say.
I agree with that sentiment. Again, to just piggyback, if you're a true wrestling fan, celebrate these people. Help, they just lost their job. Just think about how it would be if you lost your job. So if they have merch, they're your favorite wrestler, go buy their merch. Go support them. If they're doing stuff on Twitch, on YouTube, go support them. Go follow their channels. Don't sit there and make up stuff and be a troll just for the sake of being a troll. Like, these are people, they have jobs, they have families, they have things that they want to do just like you do. Also, don't go out there making speculations on who's going to get fired next. That's not cool. Like, don't go online and talk about who's going to get fired or who should be fired. Like, maybe you should be fired from your job, but you still have yours.
Maybe you should be fired from life.
Right. So, let's not do that. Remember, I want to leave with women's wrestling matters. Black wrestling draws, because it does. and let's just support wrestling. Don't bring this tribalism in that WWE is better than AEW, than better than in New Japan. Let's just love and enjoy wrestling. Like, let's all have that in common. Let's continue to watch and support all of it so that it gets better. Competition, or they say that uh, iron sharpens iron. So if we have good wrestling on one, hopefully that means we're going to have good wrestling on all, because it's going to produce that competition that's going to bring about that change. So anyway, if you're watching, thank you for watching. Thank you for following us. We're going to keep trying to do these things. Um, we have socials. I don't know if anybody wants to promote their social right now. That'd be a big no. But we do have socials for the channel. So if you want to support us, you can come and support us at Instagram at bros_brews_ and botches. And then if you want to find us here on YouTube, you've already done it because you're watching it now. So so follow us on
Slick
there.
six and what?
Shut your ass up. So follow us there, continue to support us, give us ideas, give us, whatever criticisms, complaints. I don't care. We're probably not going to read your complaints anyway, but good try. And let us know.
I'm gonna read the complaints, and I'm gonna get fired up, baby.
Go fire it up.
MJF.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna get fired up.
But yeah, thank you guys. To Over Here Boy, to Hogs Wars. As usual, my brothers, I always thank you. I love you. And hopefully we shall see the rest of you people the next time.
Later.
Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. We hustle, but the night